Welcome to today's episode of Heard and Seen Around. I am Rajesh Karipurath. This is my take on macroeconomic and geoeconomic data points, which I find interesting. I hope you enjoy watching it as much as I enjoyed curating it. Cheers.
There is no problem so complicated that you can't add more bureaucracy to it. A corporate reorg is like shuffling deck chairs on the Titanic. The only thing we learn from history is that we learn nothing from history. Education is what you get when you read the fine print. Experience is what you get when you don't. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably has a hidden subscription fee.
Energy geopolitics return in barrels per day. Back in 2000, the top 15 oil producers pumped about 34 million barrels daily. Fast forward to 2025, and that's 43 million barrels per day. And the leadership board looks very different. Saudi Aramco hasn't just stayed number one, it widened the gap, jumping from 7.3 to over 10 million barrels per day. Meanwhile, PDVSA and Yukos disappeared from the rankings entirely, proving that in oil markets geology matters, and politics sometimes matters more. ADNOC's surge is another standout, nearly tripling production and muscling into the global heavyweight leaderboard. 2 decades ago, governments binged on cheap borrowing. Now the bill has arrived, with interest. Public debt across major economies has climbed sharply since 2005. Japan sits above 200% of GDP, the US has surged past 120%, and most advanced economies have quietly stacked on more liabilities. Globally, debt is now almost as large as the entire world economy, levels last seen around World War II. The real problem? Interest rates are no longer near zero. Borrowing costs have doubled or tripled, and interest payments are starting to crowd out everything from defense to development in the US. Interest payments now exceed defense spending. Globalization may look like a vast ocean, but in reality it squeezes through a handful of narrow doorways. Just 8 strategic straits carry a huge share of global trade. The Malacca-Singapore corridor alone roughly handles a quarter of global seaborne commerce, making it the world's busiest maritime highway. But the real pressure valve is the Strait of Hormuz. Around 20% of global oil and LNG passes through the tiny gap between Iran and Oman. India cooks with LPG, but the supply store is half domestic and half geopolitical. About 40% of India's LPG comes from domestic production, giving the country a useful cushion. The remaining 60% is imported, and most of it flows from the Middle East. The UAE alone supplies roughly a quarter, followed by Qatar, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia. The US chips in with a small share, which means the kitchen gas cylinder quietly depends on shipping lanes, diplomacy, and stability in West Asia, especially routes near the Strait of Hormuz. Everyone talks about the energy transition. The chart quietly says not so fast. Oil still supplies close to 30% of global energy, and natural gas has steadily climbed for decades. Coal, despite endless obituaries, remains stubbornly very relevant. Renewables are fastest grower, yes, but they are adding to the energy mix, not replacing it yet. Meanwhile, the geography of oil production keeps shifting. The Middle East remains dominant, while North America's shale boom has staged a remarkable comeback. Steel production is the ultimate industrial scoreboard, and China is not just winning, it's playing a different game. In 2024, China produced over 1 billion tons of steel. That's more than the rest of the world combined. For perspective, India, the second largest, made about 149 million tons, barely 1/7 of China's output. The Japan, US, and Russia follow behind, but the scale gap is enormous.